Thank you so much, Philani, for coming to speak to us. And I posted this post in one of the health profession groups to just say, so many of us clinicians, especially kind of maybe the newer health professionals who are getting into the field now, a lot of the posts are
Yeah,
about, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. Is anyone else struggling? I'm burnt out. I'm not
yeah,
surviving in practice. And I just felt like maybe we needed to have some conversations about the other side of it and not to paint it as like, oh, there's this other side that everything is amazing and nothing ever goes wrong, but just to encourage people
yeah,
that there are some stories on the other side of that. So Pilani messaged me after me requesting that um, for people to reach out to me. So thank you so much for doing this, for taking the time to do this, and for helping other health professionals, encouraging them on their journey. Thank you so much for being here.
yeah, no problem. It's a it's a very um, a great honor to actually be here. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the whole thing, basically, and
Amazing.
expressing myself a little bit. Yeah.
Nice, amazing. Yes, we can. I was telling Pilani, you can bring it all, his full self to this interview. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
maybe you can
yeah.
start with just introducing yourself a little bit. Tell us how you got into physiotherapy. You can start at any point in your journey, but just give us a little sense of who you are and what your journey has been like up to now.
Okay. My name is Philani. It's my full name is it's Philani Sabela. Um, I was actually raised back in Mandini. I started basically staying in Stanger up until it was time for me to go to uh primary school. And then I went to Mandini afterwards. So I was there for quite a long time. And you know, in that period, I had quite a few challenges up until I eventually got my Matric certificate. There were a lot of ups and downs. Um, I remember on the first trial, I think it was like back in 2013. That was the first time that I was doing my Matric. I didn't necessarily do well. Um, and I did actually try to go back to high school back in 2014. That didn't necessarily work out because where I was at, I unfortunately got sick. I was only there for like 3 months. And the family just basically decided that I come back home. So I was based in Nkandla at the time. Um, and then the family decided for me to just basically come home. And it was basically a full on year without going to school or whatsoever, just being at home. It was quite stressful. It felt like I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to really do with my life. Yeah, and I did actually try to do some um what they call this supplements, exam supplements for the subjects that I had failed back in matric. So I went straight to that high school that I was at, that was based in Mandini, and I tried to um, get those subjects registered, of which I did. But then I had to actually wait for the full year again so that I
Oh
can actually
wow.
write yeah, those exams.
Okay.
During that period, I mean, it was a bit difficult because, I wasn't necessarily studying much. At that time, the internet was already there, but I wasn't necessarily exposed to it. I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily know there was, there's something that we call the internet where you can just
Yeah.
basically, go in there and, find information, on the go.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it was a little bit tough, and I did actually go there to I did actually go back to school and write those subjects. I think it was three of them. It was mathematics, life sciences, and physics.
Okay.
And then again, I didn't do well. And then it was 2016. Um, I had a good conversation with my dad. He kind of like, just told me that I should look at, how far I've actually come. I should look at the time in which I'm still gonna live,
Mm.
and that's basically the way I should basically look at things in a sense of what is it exactly that I want to do. And it won't matter how long it will take me to
Mm.
actually achieve that if I eventually achieve it.
Mm.
Um, at that time, I think I was around about 18, 19, 20. Um, and I was like, okay, because of the fact that, in a black community, you are always like thinking that people are gonna judge me, going back to school, I'm old and things of that sort. You get that scrutiny, um, but then eventually you have to understand that whatever that is that you do, it's for your own good. It's for your own future. And none of those people are going to be there when you eventually grow, get a little bit older, and now you are eventually struggling
Mm.
in a phase where you should be at least doing something productive that's actually taking your life to a better you, to a better future. And by the time I decided, okay, I went back to that same high school where I eventually studied. Like at first, I tried going to different schools because I was ashamed. I wanted to go to a different environment where people don't know me,
Mm.
don't know where I actually come from. But then it didn't necessarily work out because where I was at, those in those schools where I went to, I was always told that I should actually go back to the high school where I studied at, where I eventually didn't necessarily do well, where I did my matric. Um, because of the fact that they were still prioritizing students who were um, who were once enrolled in those high schools.
Mm.
Um, so I had to swallow my pride uh, and eventually go back.
Okay.
And when I went back, I remember on the first day, first day, I saw this teacher who used to teach me. I think it was like 2 or 3 years back before coming back again for grade 11. When she saw me, she said to me, "Oh, wow, look at you. I mean, I guess the world hasn't been fruitful for you now that you're back here. I mean, she kind of like tried to demotivate me in a sense that I'm a failure and things of that sort. I didn't necessarily let that, you know, get me down. I just basically put my head down and I just went for it. I was lucky enough that I met this guy, who we was in the same grade as we again, I think 3 years ago, before 3 years prior into us actually going back to school. We was in the same class. And then at the time when I
Okay.
went back, he was there as well. He
Amazing.
told me that, yeah, he told me that he deregistered in one of the universities where he was at because he was basically doing something that he was not really passionate about. So
Okay.
he wanted to, get better so that he can actually do something that he was passionate about. Both of us actually wanted to do medicine and surgery.
Okay.
For me, it was more of what my dad wanted. So my
Okay.
dad wanted actually to become a doctor, but then it didn't necessarily happen for him. And then he kind of like, projected that onto me in the
Okay.
sense that, you should actually become a doctor because these are the benefits of actually becoming a doctor. Um, I went back to school with this mindset that I want to become a doctor and things of that sort. Um, I did exceptionally well when I had that chance again, and then I knew that I wanted to go to the university. Obviously, being where I was, raised, the family didn't necessarily believe quite a lot about a black child can actually go to the university. They can actually
Yeah.
further their studies. They can actually pursue their dreams through education, and things of that sort. But I didn't listen to them. I just put my head down and kept doing the work. I remember back in grade 11, I was doing extra classes. I would go to school around about 6 a.m. in the morning, I mean 7 a.m. in the morning. And then I would leave, I think it was around about 4 p.m. But then in grade 12, it was even more excessive. I would go to school at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then I would leave at 5 p.m. And then
Wow.
I would go back again at 7 p.m. and then I would leave at around about,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and then I would leave around about 10 to 11 p.m. And then again, shout out to Dr. Dumiso Mhlongo. He is a doctor now, because he was the guy who kind of like instilled that mentality,
Hmm.
that you can actually get whatever you want if you just basically put in the work. Um, so and then by God's grace, we made it out. I did exceptionally well, and then I eventually went to the university. When I got there, there were, I mean, there was a lot of waiting that had to be done. I was seeing offer pending in every um, course that I had actually applied for because my first choice was medicine and surgery. The second one was pharmacy, and then the third one was actually physiotherapy. And I can't remember the fourth and fifth one. So I was still basically being put on hold. I had to go to the institution countless times, and they told me that I should wait. They're still enrolling students based on how high, their marks were. I kept waiting and waiting. Up until there was this time where I was just basically standing in a line next to the School of Health Science building in the UKZN Westville campus. This one lady just comes up to me and then she asks for my results. And then she takes them and then she goes inside and then she comes back um and she calls me and then when I get inside, they gave me a firm offer for physiotherapy.
Okay.
Um and they told me that I think I had like 3 days before I can actually accept the offer. Um I took the offer and I just wanted to think about it a little bit because I was like, no, wait a moment. I actually came here. I wanted to actually become a doctor and things of that sort. My friend told me that, listen, let's go to Joburg. We're probably going to get an institution that's going to accept us with these results because they're quite good. So for me, it was a bit difficult because, the family were not necessarily understanding this whole thing
Hmm.
of me going to the university. And things were quite tough as well. I couldn't just come in and just say, listen, now I'm going to Joburg, um, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna pursue medicine and surgery.
Hmm.
So it was gonna be a little bit hard for them to actually accept that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and that's basically my friend went with the idea. He went to Joburg. I stayed behind and I was like, okay, maybe I can actually take an offer for pharmacy at least. Let me just wait for that. I went to one of these blocks, but then can't remember I think it was J block or something. And when I went there, they actually gave me an offer for applied chemistry. They
Okay.
said, if I actually enroll for applied chemistry, and then I do exceptionally well, I will be granted to actually apply for pharmacy the following year.
Okay.
It was kind of a long shot. I mean, I think I could have actually done it if it wasn't, me thinking that I didn't like chemistry. I remember back in high school, even though I did, really, really well. I didn't like chemistry. So I was like, no way I'm going to take it as a course. So yeah, I decided to just not take it, and then eventually I was like, you know what? I did actually apply for physiotherapy, because I did have a little bit of understanding behind it, and I was um really into fitness training as well at the
Okay.
time. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this. Um, I did accept the offer. I think it was like a month later, after enrolling into the university, I mean, for the course, I think I got a firm offer for pharmacy. But then at that
Okay.
time, I didn't necessarily know you could actually deregister and go register for
Oh,
another
okay.
course.
Okay.
So yeah, so I just basically stayed with physiotherapy because I did actually have a little bit of understanding behind it. Um, and yeah, and here I
Okay.
am basically today.
Amazing. And what is your
Yeah.
current work environment? Where have you ended up in physiotherapy this far?
Um, yeah, this far. So now I'm a practice owner. I
Amazing.
opened my practice, I think about 3 months ago now.
Okay.
Um, and it wasn't necessarily easy.
Okay.
I used to work in a rehabilitation center for 2 years. That was after completing my ComServe, because
Okay.
after completing my degree, um, I went for ComServe, and then afterwards I got a permanent post in a private practice in a rehabilitation center. And I worked there for 2 years. And afterwards I just basically decided, you know what, it's time for change because
Amazing.
I was kind of like questioning quite a lot the things that were happening, and I kind of felt like I wasn't necessarily, I don't know, like living up to my potential,
Okay.
my purpose. Um, it's not in any way to disregard the experience and the
Mhm.
opportunity that I got from that rehabilitation center. But yeah, I kind of felt like, healthcare wasn't necessarily administered in a way that I actually wanted to.
Okay.
In a sense that, the priority was more about the money rather than the
Okay.
individuals who are actually
Hmm.
seeking, um,
Mhm. I think
that.
that's quite something that people seem to experience quite a lot is they get into a practice and it seems very money focused. And it's not to say obviously it's a business, so it has to bring in
Yeah,
income, but I think there may be sometimes a mismatch with especially healthcare professionals because often the reason that they go into it is to help people and to make a difference, and then they get into a practice that feels like the focus is not on that, the focus is on
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then when or what made you finally take that leap where you're like, when was the moment that you're like, okay, I'm doing it?
Um, it was it was a time where I think it was round about in February this year.
Okay.
I I was noticing a decline in my performance where I was actually working at. And that decline in performance, there were so many factors that were actually, contributing to it. Largely it was obviously the first part, the practice being so money focused. Um, and another part of it was just I I always wanted to administer healthcare ethically, in a sense that I am spending enough time with the client. As a
Mm,
physio, it's quite ethical to actually spend at least 45 minutes to an hour with that particular patient so that you get to actually understand them in a way that they want to be understood.
mm,
Because, patients tend to have a lot of frustrations, especially if you have been independent. You used to do things by yourself, you didn't require any help. um it also takes a toll mentally as well for them.
mm,
So they need to be understood, and we didn't necessarily spend too much time. As therapists, we understand that, okay, for instance, as physios, we are putting too much emphasis on caring for patients physically, in the sense that we are
mm,
applying touch, manual therapy, and things of that sort. But also, there's a psychological aspect of it, because
mm,
a patient will not necessarily be on board with what you're doing
Mhm.
if they are not psychologically on board that they can
Yeah.
actually get better. If
Mm.
they don't necessarily believe that they can get better, physically, they're not really going to get better,
Yeah.
because they are stuck in this mental block. So mm, that factor contributed quite a lot because I felt like I wasn't spending too much time with my patients. Um, I I ended up feeling that I was too overworked in a sense that I would come in around about 7 o'clock and leave around about 5 o'clock, but then the clocking out hours was like 4 o'clock, and I had to add that extra hour because it was the effort that I was actually putting with my patients. So,
Mm.
for instance, if you have, let's say, 8 hours in a day and you have nine patients and you have these meetings as well that you have to cater for in your schedule. So you have um let's say a lunch time as well, which is like an hour, that's already down, and you have these meetings. So we would have these meetings, say around about in the morning, and then we have these meetings again around about midday.
Mm.
So that was kind of like taking quite a lot of time. So I would say 3 hours was already down. So in an 8 hour day, you have like 5 hours and you're supposed to see nine patients.
Mm.
And and you have to have these admin duties.
Mm.
There was a lot of stuff that you had to do because it was more of it was like I was running an independent practice, but then I was being
Mm.
employed
Mm.
under a company. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the time, the time was just not enough.
Okay.
So you had to rush. Let's say you're gonna bring in three clients at once, and you have to fit in and see these clients, let's say like in an hour, because you have to rush to other patients as well.
Mm.
And to me, it was very detrimental mentally because I felt like it was just too much to do.
Mm.
Yeah, and at the same time, if you were not necessarily seeing those patients in a day, it was going to be a problem for you.
Mm.
Whether
Yeah.
you were going for these disciplinary meetings, and it was just quite a lot. And then I decided that okay, the company as well was kind of like coming for my head anyway
Okay.
because of the performance, yeah.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I decided that before they eventually pull the trigger, I'm just going to be the one to actually do it.
Okay.
Um, because I've always had this idea in my head that I want to actually become an independent practitioner so that I can practice in a way patients need to be catered for.
Mm.
Um, and this idea was always surfacing in my head, and I was so scared to actually do it. It was up until I
Understandably.
had,
Yeah.
yeah, and up until everything was just basically unfolding in a way that
Okay.
it was at work. And
You're
yeah,
like,
I
this
pulled
is
the
the
trigger.
moment.
Yeah.
Amazing. And one of the things you mentioned was because I think as you as we go through these kinds of conversations, there's like you know, like you mentioned before we started recording that, often people are like, yeah, just leave your job, like just start your own practice. But you also mentioned there are things that are not so easy about starting your own
Yeah,
practice. And I think it's so
yeah,
good for us to get a picture of both, because I think sometimes people demonize or idealize certain ways of practicing, and they're all going to have their own difficulties and benefits, trade-offs. And so we're just
yes,
deciding which trade-offs we're willing to make at which points. So what were some of
yeah.
the challenges that you found when you were starting your own practice, or in this period that you're in your own practice? What are some of the challenges that you found?
Uh, um, I mean, whenever you're starting out, nobody knows you.
Mm.
Irregardless of the fact that you were actually working in a well-known company, for instance. And there were patients that knew you there, and
Mm.
they actually liked the way you were treating them. But then now it's not like all of a sudden, if you start your practice, you're going to be getting those same patients coming to you.
Mm.
No, it doesn't necessarily work like that, because they are already affiliated with that particular practice that you were working
Mm.
for. So they are always going to be coming back to that specific practice.
Mm.
Um, if they actually need that sort of assistance once again. So for me, the biggest one was the fact that nobody knew or who I was.
Mm.
Um, and I was in a space where there is a lot of competition.
Okay.
So, being based in Umhlanga, there's quite a lot of competition there. Because in a way, it kind of also include Durban as a whole. Um, you know, Physiotherapy is actually a field that is quite saturated, to be
Okay.
quite honest. Um, and that was the biggest challenge. And another one that I noticed was the fact that, people are not gonna all of a sudden gonna say, hey, let me leave my well-known physio and go to
Mm.
Pilates physio, I
Mm.
mean Pilates practice, you
Mm.
know, because they don't necessarily know what type of care do you actually provide?
Mm.
And can you really genuinely assist them in a way that they actually want to be assisted? Um, so now you are stuck in this limbo that, okay, now that I'm actually here, I have to go door to door, knocking on doctors and, introducing myself so that they can actually know that I'm actually around.
Mm.
Because it's not like as soon as you start your practice, you're going to start getting this influx of
Mm.
patients.
Mm.
It doesn't necessarily work that way. Even if I actually did try to create that online presence for myself.
Mm.
So, people, whenever they see that, let's say for instance, they are searching on Google, physiotherapist near me, even if you rank on Google as the first practice that like in a matter of preference, people are not going to necessarily jump to come to your practice because they're going to first look at the reviews.
Mm.
What are people saying about this person or this practice? If they're not necessarily seeing no reviews,
Mm.
to them, it already they already associate their practice as it's not necessarily a good practice, because why are people not saying anything, or whether is it something good or whether is it something bad about that
Mm.
practice? They are not necessarily saying anything. So I remember on my first week when I started, I didn't necessarily see no one. First
Mm.
week, it's just a week of me always going to the office, but knowing very well
Mm.
I'm not going to be
Mm.
seeing anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. I think
I mean,
in our
it was
minds we just think patients are just gonna come from somewhere. We don't know where, but we just have this
yes,
image that people
yes,
are just gonna come. And then we're like, where's the
yes,
patient?
and you know the family members, they have these expectations that,
Mm.
oh, he's always waking up and he's going to
Mm.
work, and so that must mean he is actually making money,
Mm.
he is actually
Mm.
seeing patients, so
Exactly.
business is booming.
Mm. Meanwhile,
But
you're like
yeah, but it's
knocking
not
on
like
everyone's
that.
door.
And yes,
Mm.
um I had to spend that week making registrations with medical aid
Mm.
so that I can start billing patients. I had to go door to door, doctors, speaking to them, introducing myself.
Mm.
Um, I mean, in a way, you will get some doctors who are going to be like, I like the fact that you have this mentality of
Mm.
wanting to start something for yourself.
Mm.
And they are going to provide that support.
Mm.
Um, for me, that person, it was Dr. Baldio.
Mm.
He is based as well in um, Mhlanga. We are in a kind of like in a medical center because I'm practicing there. So
Okay.
it's like I'm my own practitioner, but I'm within a collaborative medical center.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing.
So yeah, he kind of like wanted to give me that chance. I think it was the way I was kind of like persistent
Mm.
when he was advertising a vacant space.
Okay.
I was always in his WhatsApp messages calling,
Nice.
you know, in so many days where he was kind of like not necessarily responding to my messages, and some days in which he's not getting back to me. But I kept on doing it. And I
Mm.
kept on calling, I kept on sending text messages. And then up until this one day, he was like, "Hey, I see you have been messaging me quite a lot. What's happening?"
I love
Yeah.
it. You kept
So
going.
yeah, yeah, I kept going, and
Amazing.
I just basically had to sell myself to him.
Mm.
Look, he wasn't necessarily going to benefit anything
Mm.
from me being there. But he just basically liked the energy that I was actually bringing.
That's okay.
And he, potentially thought to himself, you know what, I
Nice.
think I would actually like to have this sort of mentality around
I love
sort of
that.
physio. And yeah, I think it was a similar case as well when I was approaching a lot of doctors in these medical centers in Umhlanga, in Busamed. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I mean,
Amazing.
it been, yeah, it's been quite
That's
a
so
ride
cool.
so
I
far.
can imagine. And if we
Yeah.
speak about maybe some of the, because there's the actual physical, we can call them physical or like uh, strategic challenges of actually building a practice, but then there's also the emotions that come with it and feeling uncertain,
Yeah.
doubting yourself,
Yeah.
or having to pick yourself up when
Oof.
another person doesn't respond to you. How did you
Yeah.
personally like deal with some of those or navigate those mental or emotional
Ah,
challenges?
you know, well, I'm gonna say that it's still something that I am still dealing with till
Mm,
today. I
mm,
still, you get people making inquiries, and then all of a sudden, they find out that, oh, if I'm actually gonna be paying cash, it's gonna be so expensive. I mean, patients everywhere, they always feel like physical therapy is some sort of luxury,
okay.
and it's a bit expensive for them if they are going to be paying cash. So that's why most of them, they always want to pay via medical aids. So you know the mental challenges have been that you're seeing this person makes an inquiry, and then all of a sudden they ghost you,
Mm,
or all of a sudden they change their minds that you know what, let's basically cancel the booking, and I'm not gonna be necessarily gonna make it. And then you send them a message, a DM, letting them know that okay, you can actually make a booking on this website here, if you change your mind. And they be like, okay, thank you so much. And the person, a weeks later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they never make the booking.
mm,
um so you still you still persist, you still try to reach out to people, irregardless of the fact that there are some people where you are not getting any response or whatsoever, or maybe some of them, they will eventually just come in once and then think that, oh, it's expensive, I'm going to be paying cash, why is this guy not giving me discounts and things of the sort. um it's a bit difficult to actually start throwing out discounts and things of that sort, low rates when you're just starting out, because at the end of the day, if the practice is the only thing that's actually um making you make a
mm,
living out of, you are making a living out of it, it's quite difficult to actually do all of that, because people tend to forget that you also have bills to pay, you also have to transport to the office.
mm,
They forget all of that, and whenever they come or they make inquiries, they are always thinking about themselves, of which I think it's true in any sort of business.
mm,
Whenever clients, they are making inquiries or they are about to purchase something, everything has to be about themselves. They are always thinking that, okay, what am I actually getting out of this?
Mm,
So that whenever they pay you, it doesn't necessarily feel like they are paying you, or like, money is leaving their bank
mm.
account. So,
That was such a
the
good,
hardest,
sorry, carry on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been literally one of the hardest part about the business is
Mm,
that sometimes you're never gonna get people responding back to you,
mm,
um, but you still have to keep going, and
mm,
especially with the doctors as well. Sometimes you be calling these doctors and you get receptionists, and
mm.
sometimes some of them they are rude.
Yeah.
um, some of them, they 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 make them they make themselves come across as they are the doctors. They are not necessarily trying their best to actually give you that chance.
Mm,
Um, for the doctors to hear you, because at the end of the day, we are not asking doctors to actually give us a free ride,
mm,
or all of a sudden take those patients, all the patients that they have, and then all of a sudden refer them to us.
mm,
Um, all we want is basically a chance to imprint our identity in this field, and a chance for individuals to actually see how good we are.
mm,
How do we actually cater for patients? How unique, um, like what sort of a unique voice do we actually have, and
mm.
the expertise as well that we actually bring
Yeah.
into the field of practice. Yeah.
So cool. And I think you mentioned something that I think is important just for people to remember, which is this is the life of creating a business, no matter what you're doing. So I think sometimes and maybe partly because we don't really get
Yes. Yeah.
exposed to the world of business or entrepreneurship, but also I think like maybe we just think of healthcare as maybe something different or a practice as something different. But I think it's so important to remember that entrepreneurship is like a whole nother world. It comes with its own skills, its own mindsets, its
Yeah.
own way of
Yeah.
navigating things. And when we're starting our own practice, it's not just I want to practice in my own way. It's I'm signing myself
Yes.
up to
Yes.
be an entrepreneur, and I'm signing myself up to learn all
Yes.
the skills, and I'm not entitled to just getting patients. I have to like do all the work that's
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
with actually,
Yes.
running a business,
Yes.
which I don't think a lot of people are prepared for. And I think if a lot of people were more prepared for that part of the journey, and they knew before they went into it, this is what I'm signing up for. I'm going to learn a whole new set of skills and all of that.
Yes.
Like, I think we
Yes.
maybe would be more prepared, and we would navigate the challenges maybe a little bit, not necessarily
Mm.
easier, not make it
Yeah.
necessarily easier, but we'd be up for
It
the
never
up for
is.
the
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's so good that you've given
Um.
people a behind the scenes of what it can actually
Yes.
be like.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
amazing. And what keeps you
Yeah.
going? Like when you have those difficult moments, when you are struggling, when you're wondering why did I do this? What is that that
Oh my God.
keeps you going,
Um.
if
I'm
anything?
gonna be I'm gonna be a little bit honest.
Hmm.
I think whenever you are starting out with this, you have to be a little bit delusional. Um,
I love it.
you have, you have
100%
to
agree.
yeah, you have to be a little bit mental unstable because my goodness, my goodness, my goodness.
I love it.
I mean, so because people think that venturing into entrepreneurship is just gonna suddenly make a lot of money and
Mm,
be this rich person. But it's never really like that. We also go through the doubts, the uncertainty.
mm.
Sometimes I always feel like I'm losing my mind. Whenever this doubts and these voices starts to come into my head.
Oh.
I don't know how many times I actually speak to myself.
Mm,
I don't know how many times I let my thoughts come out verbally.
Mm.
because I don't know, man. It's insane.
Mm.
Um, but you know what basically keeps me going is basically understanding that I am here today because this is something I prayed for.
Mm.
Um, this is something that I always wanted to do. And me being here today is a blessing on its own because I I am actually realizing my dream. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and I took a risk. I took a biggest risk, and it was a gamble in a sense that because family members they really did actually scrutinize me quite a lot. I got like a serious backlash about quitting my job. Um them telling me that I should have actually spoken to the family about this and tell them, and then and don't necessarily just come forward and be like, you know what, I've actually quit my job. I'm gonna be leaving.
Mm.
It's gonna be my last day on this particular week because that's basically how I announced everything to them. I told them, listen, okay, I've officially quit my job and I'm officially gonna be unemployed in 2 weeks' time.
They're like,
So
you did not run this by
yeah,
us.
and then I started just receiving this insane
Mm.
scrutiny and
Sure.
insane backlash.
Mm.
But it still keeps me going to um know that whatever I'm doing, it's also for them as well.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm not only just doing this for me. I want I want, you know, the life circumstances to actually
Mm.
change. I want
Mm.
to actually also give them a better life.
Mm.
Um, but obviously it's gonna come with a lot of challenges, a
Mm.
lot of disbelief.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and I remember that I always told myself that I want my mom to reach a specific age. Um, to have retired, and
Mm.
but when I was actually working like a 9 to 5, it hasn't actually happened because
Mm.
it's been quite a lot. And there were some cases where you feel like, oh, I'm not really getting paid enough and things of that sort. It's so crazy that with entrepreneurship, you leave that job, you quit that job thinking that I'm not getting paid enough, but
Mm.
then when you get there you actually make way less money. So
Exactly. You're like, I'm working too much and I'm making too little money. And then you go to entrepreneurship and you work even more and you make even less money.
yes, yes,
You're like,
yes,
why did I do this?
exactly.
But yeah, I love that you kind of brought it back to like, this is the thing that you want. And kind of like you mentioned in the beginning, it's like, even if it takes longer than maybe I thought it would, or that it's a longer journey, I'm still getting to the same place and it's going to be worth the time that I put into it and the effort that I put into it if I get to where I'm wanting to go and practicing in the way that I want to practice
Yeah,
and earning what I want to earn and supporting my family in the way that I want is all going to
yeah,
be worth that. And now you know what the what the challenges are
yeah,
that
yeah,
that come along for the journey.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's so good
yeah,
that you keep that purpose in mind and that yeah, the goal in
yeah,
mind of why you're doing this in the first place.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Is there anything, any last lessons that maybe you haven't we haven't discussed that you would like to mention now to encourage other clinicians, maybe clinicians who are in their own practice? Any lessons that you would like to
Mm.
talk about?
Um, the biggest one was that you need to put yourself out there.
And be persistent.
Yeah, that is, yes, yes, you need to put yourself out there
Mm.
and be very, very persistent.
Mm.
Look, I don't necessarily think that today I would actually be working in a medical center, being part of a collaborative, multidisciplinary group if I didn't necessarily be persistent.
Mm.
If I just sent a message and went to look at the space that was available, and then all of a sudden came back and said, "Yeah, I want that," and told them, and then just sent one message, and then I was like,
Mm.
"I'm gonna wait for them
Mm.
to respond." So I didn't wait for them to respond. I think, um, one of the biggest obstacles we put ourselves as entrepreneurs, as practice owners, is that we are waiting for people to respond.
Mm.
You know, you actually get clients by actually following up. I think
Mm.
that's the biggest I mean, like, factor that actually can propel your practice to greater heights is
Mm.
following up. People don't follow up. People, they just like send a few messages, exchange few messages, and then they see that that person is not responding, and then they just let it go.
Mm.
You have to be persistent, not in a way that somebody feels like their private space is just,
Mm.
being um I don't know, like, invaded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
so it
But
has to
remembering
be,
that they have
yeah,
busy
it has to
lives and you
be,
have to remind them.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
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 It's more of, yeah, it's more of just understanding that people are busy,
Mm.
um you respect their space, but then at the same time, you still have to remind them, hey, I'm here, by the way, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, that's so good.
because with all the chaos that's actually happening in our lives, people tend to actually forget the person that they spoke to a couple of hours ago.
Mm.
So if you are gonna speak to that, yeah, if you're gonna speak to one person, and you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna wait to see if they respond in the next 5 days." I
Mm.
mean, that person probably even forgot that they spoke to you, you
Mm.
know, 2 hours after they had a
Exactly. Yeah.
conversation with you,
Yeah. And I think a lot
because
of clinicians
they
think that
they
it
have a
means
lot of,
something personal when actually it's just they got busy or they forgot and you think like, oh, they don't want to come back to me or they don't like me or, like clinicians often take the lack of response as meaning something personal and then they don't follow up, but actually the person often just forgot or like you said, we're so bombarded with things now that we forget things like an hour or two later. So yeah, that's so good.
yeah. It's not always yeah. It's not really about people, like, not necessarily liking you. I mean, how
Mm.
can I not like you if I've just met you? You
Exactly.
know.
Exactly.
Um.
Yeah.
So it's not really yeah. It's not really personal.
Mm.
We have to actually understand, as practice owners, it's never, 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 never personal.
Mm. I
Um,
think that's a huge
if you
lesson.
are an emotional person, um, yeah, if you are an emotional person, I don't think you should become an entrepreneur,
Okay.
because
Mm.
you you are gonna get your emotions spiraling like everywhere if you are too
Mm.
emotional to actually, yeah, with everything that people say. Sometimes patients
Mm.
even get rude to us.
Yeah.
You could provide the best care possible for a patient, and they still become rude.
Mm.
um so you have to understand that it's not basically about you.
Yeah.
It's just basically who they are, or it's basically something that they are going through.
Mm.
I did actually mention this when we started, that sometimes patients come with a lot of frustrations, so you have to
Mm.
understand, you have to be in their shoes.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I was once on the other end of it, because I remember when I got injured, um, I fractured my foot, and then I had to
Mm.
use crutches. It was frustrating,
Mm.
being assisted with everything, and it was, so, that's where I go to actually understand patients a little bit better. That, you know, can you imagine, for instance, if you are somebody, if the patient is going through a phase where they, obviously have maybe a stroke or something. So for that person, it's going to be a long journey for them.
Mm.
And you can't come with this mindset that if they are you know, responding in a certain way that they don't like you or it's a personal attack on you.
Mm.
No, this person is suffering, is going through something that is going to basically take a long time for them to actually recover, if they even do recover, because we have different kinds of strokes, for instance. Some patients, recover quite much faster.
Mm.
Some of them take years to recover.
Mm.
So if you are actually interacting with that client, you can't necessarily think that whatever they are saying, it's a personal attack on you.
Mm.
No, that
Yeah.
person is going through a lot. It's
Yeah.
going through a lot. They used to drive their own car. They used to do I mean participate in their favorite hobbies,
Mm.
whatever it is that they used to do.
Mm.
um they used to do that without really being dependent on anyone, and now all of a sudden they have to be dependent on their spouse, for instance, for their caregivers. If they want to go to the toilet, if they want to go to the bathroom, they
Mm.
need some form of assistance. So you can imagine
Mm.
how detrimental that is on their mental
Yeah.
capacity in
Yeah,
general.
they have so many struggles that have nothing to do with us, actually.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good for us to remember
Mm,
that as well. Because I think we take
mm,
everything on as like, this means something about me personally. So that's so good to
yeah.
remember also. And that idea of like managing our emotions and being aware of, what am I making this mean? How am I interpreting this thing? How am I taking it personally? And to challenge that way of thinking, I think is a huge skill set for entrepreneurship, definitely. Thank you so much, Philani, for sharing all of that with us and your
Yes.
journey and
Yes.
the lessons. Where should people come and find you, come and follow you? Where's the best place?
So you can actually find me on Facebook. It's Phil Sabela. So it's basically my a shortened name of Philani.
Okay.
You can also find me on TikTok. It's Phil_Sabela PT. Um, and on Instagram, it's at Phil_Sabela. You can also find me on YouTube as well. It's Phil at Phil_Sabela PT.
Okay, amazing. And I'll
Yeah.
also put those links in the actual show notes as well so that people can find them easily.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for your
Yes. Of
time
course.
and for encouraging and supporting other health professionals with your journey and your lessons. Thank you so much.
Yes. I mean, it has been a great pleasure to actually be here and actually speak about this, because I know for a fact that there are so many clinicians who actually have these things bottled up in their minds,
Mhm.
and they are really, really struggling to actually talk about them because they don't necessarily have the platform to talk about them.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's one of the reasons why I absolutely knew that I wanted to be here today.
Amazing. That's so good. Yes, you
Yeah.
like putting a voice to things that other people don't often express. So that's amazing.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
so
Yes.
much for
I,
doing
I,
that.
no problem at all. Thank you so much for
Amazing.
hosting this today.
Amazing. Such a pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
Yes. Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.
Awesome. Bye.